Thank you, Dr. Nimida. Next topic is newer laser and lasers in postoperative glaucoma management by Dr. Meena Gobinath. Dr. Meena is the HOD of glaucoma department at Shankara Eye Hospital.
Thank you, Dr. Nimita and KSOS for this platform. And thank you, audience, for coming to listening to us. Hope you will have some kind of a learning from this topic. So these are some of the lasers which are in pipeline. Some are being done, but not very popular. So, what are the newer lasers? I'll be covering all these topics. SLT has already been covered by Dr. Veena. So, what is micropulse laser trabeculoplasty? So, it's the same thing, it's the trabeculoplasty. Now, what happened? Initially, it started with argon laser, then went on to selective laser. So what has happened with these two lasers? There have been a lot of post-treatment complications. So the researchers attempted to reduce the amount of energy delivered by each SLT procedure. And they found that a subthreshold energy SLT could be as effective as a conventional SLT. So in 2005, these two scientists described the micropulse diode laser trabeculoplasty. Now, what is a mechanism? It's basically a continuous wave laser beam, which is cut into small, short, repetitive, low pulses energy. Now, there is always a cooling period between these brief pulses. So, there is no evidence of any cellular damage, no scarring or morphological changes. There is no thermal spreading or no IOP spikes were noted with this procedure. So this is a table which compares the MLT with SLT and ALT. So if you note here, there is no destruction of pigmented trabecular cells in MLT, and the spot size is slightly larger like SLT, 300 micrometer, and the post-operative inflammation is literally talked as none. So this is a machine which you can use for micropulse trabeculoplasty, and this is the laser trabeculoplasty lens. Usually T10 laser spots are given per clock hour in this procedure. So these are some of the studies. This is a systematic review and meta-analysis done about this. Definitely it offer a greater short-term reductions as comparable as SLT. Now, what are the limitations? So what they have found, when you see this meta-analysis, multiple researchers or multiple people have used different kind of spot size, different wavelength, different duration. So there has been not a great standardization for this procedure. So that is one of the limitation. Now, when we talk about micropulse transscleral cyclophotocoagulation, the same thing, it has got an on cycle and an off cycle, the micropulse mechanism is same, on and off cycle is there. So as Dr. Nimita was telling, when we started the diode cyclophotocoagulation, it was mainly for refractory glaucoma. So if you see micropulse diode laser photocoagulation, it can be used for early therapy of glaucomatous eyes also. So the more and more people are using in early therapy also, and best part is it can be repeated in eyes. The surgical techniques, again, there's a duty cycle which is around 31.3, and this is the latest probe which is being used. And usually it is a sweeping mechanism after giving a peribulbar block, and usually you can decide on how much quadrant you have to treat. So there are 5 modifiable factors in this, that is the total treatment time and power, and which is the area treated. Are you treating 180, 360 or some 2-3 clock hours? Positioning of the problem probe and the velocity of the sweeping motion. So all this can influence the clinical outcome of this disease. So the biggest downside of this procedure is that you have to pull up the patients because the probe cannot be reused. So these are some of the results which they have got in refractory glaucoma. So they consider that diode transscleral photocoagulation, both micropulse and continuous modes, which is a standard mode, are effective in lowering the intraocular pressure. The micropulse mode provided a more consistent and predictable. That means the thicical chances or the ocular complications chances are very, very less when compared to the standard conventional laser photocoagulation. Now, very minimal complications, as I mentioned, there can have a little pain, rebound, increase of the intraocular pressure, and a little bit of anterior chamber inflammation. So definitely, this is an option, very safe option to traditional transscleral cyclophotocoagulation. Now, the what is the downside of an SLT? Now, there is always a phobia. Don't put anything onto your my eyes. So, SLT requires a gonioscope. Uh, to continue with the procedure, it can cause a blurry vision, foreign body sensation to the patient. And what happens in SLT? The laser energy, it passes through the anterior chamber to reach the trabecular meshwork. So it may affect the cornea, it can change the curvature. So there comes the use of direct selective laser trabeculoplasty or DSLLT, which was invented by Dr. Professor Michael Belkin. He is a very good Israeli scientist. Lot of inventions is it. So this was the first device which he invented, and now it is being taken over by Alcon, which is sold in the name of Voyager DSLT device. So in this, if you see in the Belkin, in the conventional, you have to put a the lens, whereas in Belkin Vision, it is a direct laser application without any kind of lens. So this is a study which is a randomized controlled study called Glorious study on this DSLT. So it's a multi-centric trial wherein they have compared the efficacy of DSLT against the conventional SLT in open angle glaucoma. So in this, what they use is Nd:YAG laser with a wavelength of 532 nanometer, and these are the parameters which they have studied in DSLT and SLT. Both DSLT and SLT was done for 360 degrees. Now, this was the way they randomized the study, wherein DSLT 98 patients were underwent DSLT and 94 patients underwent SLT. So they concluded from the study that 6 months primary endpoint did not achieve statistically non-inferiority compared with conventional. What does that mean? It is almost both of them are equally efficacious, but failure to demonstrate non-inferiority does not prove inferiority. So definitely DSLT remains an effective option in the early treatment of glaucoma. Other ones include carbon dioxide laser assisted sclerectomy surgery. It was being done, but currently the machine is not really available in Arvind Pondicherry. Dr. Venkatesh has done quite a few cases wherein you attach this arm of the machine into the microscope and you do, it is part of the deep sclerectomy, make a first flap, and for making the deeper flap, you use a carbon dioxide laser. So the carbon dioxide laser will ablate the outer layer of the Schlem's canal, and then once the Schlem's canal is opened, that's the end point, and then after that you close this flap. Now this can be either combined with phaco. They've combined with multiple procedures, like they have even combined with trabeculectomy also. So these are some of the studies which have been preliminarily done in 2012, wherein they found a complete success at 6 months and 1 year to be around 76 to 60% in these 12-month follow-up of 30 patients. Few complications, PAS, iris incarceration can happen, and these are the main causes for elevated IOP after the procedure. Femtosecond laser, which our colleagues, refractive surgeons, love it. This also has been used in glaucoma. So you all know the femtosecond, the beauty of femtosecond is it does not heat the tissue, or it does not send any kind of a cavitational shock waves. That is why it is safer in refractive surgery. So it's basically a near infrared wavelength which is used. So it is not absorbed by any transparent media. So this is a study which is first in-human safety study of femtosecond laser, which is called as FLIGHT study, femtosecond laser image guided high precision trabeculotomy. So this has demonstrated that it's got a very good favorable safety profile for this. So this is a system which is used for this wireless laser system for this, and other procedure being excimer laser trabeculostomy, which again can be done as a standalone or combined with phaco. Basically, it creates holes or channels between the anterior chamber and Schlem's canal. Now, this is a probe which is used in ELT, And usually a corneal paracentesis is done, and through that the laser probe is introduced into the anterior chamber. The tip is approached under gonioscopic guidance until it touches the trabecular meshwork. So you can see there are some bubbles and bleeding which happens. That is the end point of the laser which is being done. So there have been multiple studies which have been performed on ELT procedure, which has showed a relatively good safety and effectiveness of this procedure. Now, when it comes to lasers in postoperative glaucoma, laser suture lysis post-trabeculectomy, usually using these are the different lenses which is used. The first one is a Hoskins lens. This is a Blumenthal lens, and we can even use a rich trabeculoplasty lens also. When do we do it? Usually 2 weeks without adjuvants and 3 to 5 weeks with the usage of MMC. And this is the laser settings. Usually you can use argon laser. I use a yellow Pascal laser of 577 nanometer. You can use either 250 to 1000 microvolts with a duration of 20 to 100 milliseconds. With 1 to 3 applications, you should be able to cut. Multiple complications have been reported, but all are not very major complications. Wound dehiscence, conjunctival perforation, sudden hypotony can happen, hyphema, very, very rarely malignant glaucoma. Late complications of lenticular opacity and large filtrate blebs can happen. So this is the cut edge of the suture which is seen. So this is a patient who presented to us with a progressive myopia after a long pseudophakic history of 2013. She presented to us 2022. So shallow AC, progressive myopia, raised IOP. Raise your eyebrows. It is chronic pseudophakic malignant glaucoma. Now you can do something called IZHV. That is a surgical IZHV, iridosonulohyaloidovitrectomy. So the same thing we can perform as Nd:YAG laser hyalodotomy with a Nd:YAG, PI and hyalodotomy. So usually this may be needed to be repeated as 2 to 3 sittings in a gap of 1 week to 2 weeks, depending upon the response of the patient. So I'm not going into the details of malignant glaucoma. So Nd:YAG laser capsulotomy and hyalodotomy should be considered. Endocyclophotocoagulation, I think partly discussed. So ECP can be approached as a pars plana or limbal approach, wherein you are directly ablating the ciliary process. So these are both pars plana as well as the limbal approach, wherein there is a direct ablation of the ciliary processes was happening. So indications, again, it was indicated for refractory glaucoma, but nowadays it has been combined with phaco, it has been combined with KDB, it has been combined with iStent. So it can be done with good visual potential. It definitely has certain advantages. Last slide, Nd:YAG laser goniopuncture. So this was used earlier in deep sclerectomy patients, that is in non-penetrating surgery, as an attempt to augment the filtration. But it can be used in even in non-functioning blebs, definitely with patent internal ostia. So it also reopens the pathway from the anterior chamber to the subconjunctival space.